Hi, I'm Owen5, author of the book The Charismatic Edge and creator of the online Charisma Training Academy. And in this free video, the final of this free video series on the 5 fundamentals of influence, I want to talk to you about the business of influence. Now, this particular video is something that is very close to my heart because in order for you to be more influential in terms of business, in order to grow your business, in order for you to be able to make sure that you're making the best decisions for your business, you need to understand that influence in many ways is a business. And it's a business of being able to understand how to build value. Now, the truth of the matter is that people always ask me, why does one thing cost so much more than something else? Why is one thing far more expensive than something else? And the reality is that value often is something that exists in perception. And because it exists in perception, you have the ability to influence people to radically change the perception that you have of that. We have, of course, standard market prices, but even in standard market prices, you have certain particular products and certain services that are worth way more. Why is it that they're worth way more? Is it just because they're given extra service? Is it just because they're more special or they're more enhanced? A lot of times we'll pay a lot of money and we'll get a product that isn't necessarily that great. We might pay a lot less money for a product that is actually better. So what is it that these people do that manage to justify the particular price points that they pick? Most importantly, how can you use the business of influence to make your product, your service, yourself, or your company much more valuable? In this particular free video, I want to share with you some of the most important things I think that you need to know in order to make sure that you have the competitive edge when it comes to building a more valuable product, building a more valuable service, building a more valuable company. So, when we look at the business of influence, the first thing that I want to talk to you about is the aspect of charisma. Now, charisma is an area that I've spent quite a lot of time researching. I'd be regarded as an authority in the area. And in terms of the books that I've written on charisma or the training courses that I do, the one thing that charisma to me really personifies is the ability to be able to grab people's attention and engage people. Now, charisma is really something that maps across all areas of influence, from the psychology of influence to the attitude of influence to the language of influence to the economics of influence. But in particular, in terms of the business of influence, your ability to be able to be more charismatic or to create your company in a more charismatic way will determine how valuable you are. Because if you think about Apple, for example, one of the things that they've done quite significantly and quite successfully is their ability to be able to position themselves as a brand which is much more engaging and much more captivating than every other brand. They position themselves in a very, very powerful manner because not just the personality of Steve Jobs, but the way in which they structured the branding to be able to create a particular personality. So charisma is partly about being able to know who you are, and it's partly being able to express who you are and infuse or inject more personality into you or into your business. So the key towards being able to do that is to understand, well, what do you do better than everyone else? What is it that makes you more effective than every other company? And what is it that makes you different to every other company? And by the way, when I say different, I'm not necessarily saying better. Because the more unique you can start to position yourself, the more personality you'll start to have. And the more personality you'll start to have, the much more likely people are to want to notice, to want to spend time with you, to want to understand more about you. You see, the trick to it is that personality is actually something that attracts people because it interests people. If you've just got a bland brand, then you're going to find yourself not necessarily connecting with them. And even if they do great products, there's no personality there, therefore there's not that extra edge. So a lot of times businesses are so focused trying to market their products and say, my product is better than everyone else's. But if you can give your product personality, sometimes personality can even trump quality. Now, that seems like an outlandish statement to make, but if you think about it, the decision you make about how you can beat the competition and strategically overpower the competition, sometimes you won't be the best. Sometimes if you take, for example, Virgin, and again, Richard Branson visited Lithuania just earlier this year and did an amazing job. And one of the things about Virgin is it's not necessarily top in any of the areas that it works in. So it's not necessarily the best or the very top airline, but it's got a massive amount of personality. And Richard Branson uses his charisma to be able to impact I suppose, the impression or the brand of Virgin. Therefore, Virgin becomes a brand that is synonymous with a number of really, really great qualities. But the most important thing is it's a strong personality, so people connect with it much more easily. So again, charisma is a very, very important aspect. And if you want to be able to build more charisma, don't just answer the question, what makes you better than everyone else? Answer the question, what makes you or your business or your product or your service different to everyone else? In other words, what are the qualities? If it had a personality, how would you describe it? The more you can think through in that particular way, the more likely you are to be able to make your product, your brand, your idea, your service, your company to be something that stands out as different to all the rest with its own unique persona, which will make people much more likely to go into it, and it'll make it much more valuable. The second thing you can do in order to ensure that you're mastering the business of influence is to start looking at how you can use a number of psychological characteristics or psychological techniques to be able to improve how valuable you're perceived to be, or the perceived value of your product or service. One characteristic is a principle of influence known as scarcity. The more difficult to get, or the more scarce whatever it is that you're selling, the much more likely people are to want to buy it. So that's why, for example, when you say there's only 5 seats left, again, when you say that, people are more likely to want to buy them because, again, they don't want to miss out. If you say, for example, if you look at, let's take Apple again, if you look at whenever they release the iPhone or the iPad, at the very beginning, it's very difficult to get. There's a lot of long lines for people, and the more difficult it is to get, the more people want it. Again, many people want what they can't have, especially in the day and age today where we can have almost anything we want. At the times where you can't get what you want, it makes you want it even that much more. So again, scarcity is a very powerful principle that allows you to make something appear even more valuable. The harder it is to get, the more valuable it is. And this works out in life as well. A lot of times people ask me, they say, well, what are the things I need to do to impress someone? Or how is it that I can get this person to go out with me? Well, there is some truth in the idea of playing hard to get. Now, it doesn't mean that you have to play lots of mind games or play too hard to get, but the more valuable you see yourself and the more you give yourself options, and the less easy you are and the less desperate you are, the more valuable you will appear to the other person. So if you can be a little bit difficult to understand or to figure out or even to get to go on a date with, the more you'll be wanted by other people. And again, that's a principle that tends to exist in lots of different areas. We like to have what we can't have, therefore make yourself more scarce, make your product more scarce, make your company more scarce, and you're more likely to actually get people to want it more. Another aspect that will help you with the business of influence is to be able to use another principle of influence, which is known as social proof. Social proof means you're getting people to understand that your product or your service or your company is loved by many people. So it's the old ad that was used in a cat food advertisement years ago, at least in Ireland and I think the UK as well, was on Whiskers, which was a particular type of cat food. And they said 8 out of 10 cats prefer Whiskers. Now, I'm sure they didn't do the survey on the cats, to be fair. But what they did do was they started to say, well, if most pet owners see that this is the cat food that everyone buys, they're more likely to buy it. And again, they were right. They started to lead the industry quite significantly. Whenever you go to Amazon, you'll notice there's certain bestseller lists, and the bestseller lists do quite well. So as soon as a book gets into the bestseller lists, they're more likely to sell more copies because people go and see, oh, this is a bestseller. In other words, lots of people bought it. In other words, I should buy it too. If you want to be able to present your message online or present your business online, the more testimonials you can get from customers about what they said about you, the more likely people are to be persuaded that you're actually very, very good. Because again, it's social proof. It's other people saying it, therefore it's probably true. So again, it's a really, really effective way of being able to create the right kind of impression and making it so that people think you're really, really valuable because again, everyone else is saying that you are. I do hope in this video you got a lot of value. I hope that you've gotten some good insights into how you can start to see influence in the business that it is to be able to build your product or your service or you or your company as something that becomes much more valuable as a result. So again, just in summary, to go over what we've looked at, the first aspect is to make your business more charismatic, more full of personality by asking not just how is it better than every other product out there, but how is it different? What's its own unique personality? If you were to describe its personality, what would you say? The second aspect of it is to use the principle of scarcity to make it so that you make your product or idea or service more valuable by making it more difficult to get, to see it as something that's exclusive, that it's a secret, that it's different than anything they've ever heard before. And then the last part is the social proof, making people see the value inherent in what you do by getting them to realize lots of other people actually think it's great as well, and it's very, very popular. So therefore, it's the done thing. It's the thing that people most want to do. By using those different ideas, I'm sure that you'll be able to build much more value into what it is that you sell, including yourself, so that you'll find yourself feeling more valuable and demonstrating more value in every aspect of your life and your business. I really hope that you got a lot from this video series. Thank you very much for taking the time to be able to go through each one of the videos. If you haven't seen any of the other videos, please do go back and watch them. They're free videos, and they're a great way of you learning some of the most important fundamentals that you need to know in order to improve the way in which you persuade people and influence people in life and in business. But for now, I'm Owen Fitzpatrick. Thank you very, very much for watching.